Hi everybody and welcome to the Property AI Report. This is your weekly digest, the 50th in fact, of all things property and AI. Brought to you by me, Mal McCallion, and my good friend and co-host Matt Goddard. Matt, how are you this week?
50 not out, Mal. He's knocking it out the park, right?
Imagine.
You're a cricket fan.
Getting all the way here, but yes, and plenty more where this came from. You'll be delighted to hear, listeners. But yeah, this week we've got another packed show, so let us get stuck into our property news. All right, so one big story that kind of feels like it's been around for quite a long time already. It's Renters' Rights Bill time. It's going to become law. It's been voted through. And what does that mean for the industry? Matt, summarise.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much. So it's received royal assent on the 27th of October, didn't it? And so it was key points, really. And obviously it's been speculated on and bounced around and ping-ponged back through Parliament. But Section 21s are no more. Yeah. That's a big ticket item and obviously one that's a big cause for concern for landlords specifically in terms of how do we get our house right back and sort of what are the challenges going to have in terms of even if you want to sell it and you bring your property back, what can you and can't you more importantly do if you do try to reclaim that property, try to sell the property and then are unable to because you don't meet the valuation you look for. How it works. Rent controls are coming in and no rental bidding. So some of these things we've seen come through in the Scottish lettings industry and also Wales previously, but actually, in fact, Ireland's got rent controls, hasn't it? But now they're here in England as well. Rent in advance capped, so it's 1 month maximum, so no more 6 weeks upfront or whatever, 6 months even if it's students or overseas and you haven't got a good credit rating. So it's one that potentially is going to impact potential tenants as well as much as anything that you're not going to be able to say, look, I don't have a credit rating, but here's some cash in advance. And obviously go through all your anti-money laundering checks to prove that it's yours and such like. And then pets are permitted by default. So maybe a positive for me if we ever decide to rent somewhere and take the dog with us. Yeah, exactly. Get Mabel along for the way. And then a few others, mandatory PRS ombudsman and a national landlord database. It's a big step as well. Sort of council enforcement powers as well, with expanded penalties of up to £40,000 for not adhering to these things. So a wide gambit, and there's been a lot of press and articles and talk beforehand, but at least now the royal assent means that people can actually start implementing things with a bit of confidence now.
Yeah, exactly. It's been kicking around since Michael Gove time, back in probably 5-6 years ago, something like that. But yes, obviously, I think from the political side of things, this is very much kind of getting young people to kind of vote and be in favour of all this sort of stuff. They claim it's rebalancing in kind of favour of tenants and so on, and that obviously remains to be seen. If all landlords exit the market, then that's going to be a problem from a rental value point of view, which is not an insignificant challenge that we've got already. But yeah, like you say, it's here, and actually now we can work with it because we know what it looks like, the shape and size of it, and actually that means that everybody can kind of finally sort of get to grips with what they are going to need to do. It does seem, anecdotally speaking to agents, that some of the more accidental landlords are leaving, but some of the more professional or serious landlords are actually getting even more involved because they're able to deal with all of the different administrative burdens that are coming down the track. So, I think it will be a reshaping as any regulatory change is of the industry, but there's opportunities there as well as challenges. And I've heard a lot of agents, lettings agents, particularly letting specialists, actually kind of saying, almost rolling their sleeves up and going, all right, well, look, this is an opportunity. Let's get stuck in. So I'm going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But yes, certainly a big moment. And I don't think that they've actually still given us the actual
They haven't. So local authority powers are coming in December of this year, but the actual new tenancy system and everything that comes with that is being broadly touted as 2026, which is quite...
That's great. So it could be 11 weeks away or it could be 63.
All of the above.
Exactly. So yeah, look, I'm sure we shall briefly return to it. It's not our favourite subject, is it, Matt? Really, but yeah, I'm sure as it goes through, we will be just keep an eye on it, and obviously anything that good that comes out of it, and any kind of great ways that agents are using it, will obviously cover that as well. All right, so that's our first property news story, and we did just want to dip into. There's been a lot of kind of talk around AI search out there, and various kind of how do you get your website up and running. Obviously, Home Search and others are out there pushing some products and services, which I think is just I think it's worth having a little sort of double click on this, because AI search is, as I think many people agree, if not most, is going to grow and grow significantly. And I think that the ability of agents to be able to match their listings and their website traffic and all that sort of stuff to what AI is looking for, what ChatGPT and Google Gemini and others, particularly agentic searches, is trying to find. Consumers are going to be um, much more kind of garrulous about what they really want, right? They're going to actually be kind of articulating all of the different facets of their lives and being able to find properties off the back of that. So I do think that products and services that do emphasize how you can get your website up to scratch and how you can enable it to be discovered better, I think these are all good things, and everybody should be thinking about this sort of stuff. I often think as well, though, that there is this, and again, I think it was mentioned in the Home Search article this morning by Giles Elwood. It's very much like SEO in the kind of early days. It's a little bit sort of Wild Westy. It's difficult to understand or to know what these algorithms do and how they are going to map into your website directly. So, obviously there are various different ways of trying to address that. But I don't know if you've got any kind of thoughts, Matt, on what is kind of coming down the track from the AI search perspective.
But for me, it's very much almost a pyramid. You've got your, let's say, traditional SEO across the bottom as a very broad base, and then you've got your sort of generative engine optimization sort of stacked on top of that. And so quite a lot of things you would do historically to make sure you were at the top, very good reviews, well-structured listings data, local area content and authority in terms of the local area. That all comes together to make sure that you are prevalent at that front end. And I think the point that was made in the article this morning is it's supplementing for these large language models, not just your property descriptions and attributes, but then bringing in alongside that the local area search, the things about the council taxes, distance to train stations, all the things you're probably doing on your website anyway, but actually bringing that together as a data set that's then being fed out there for these large language models. And some of these companies that are doing that for you, such as Giles, and there's another one called LM.ai, which I think is Canadian, are actually pulling those data sets together using your listings. I do wonder, yes, they're getting out there and they're sort of enriching your data set for you and helping the large language models pick that up. But if actually you're doing that on your own website as well and working with sort of AI-related portals who are doing that, where your brand is still front and center, that's quite a big key. Because if you think about a marketing schedule, these companies are the large language models are looking for that sort of domain authority, that first publisher first, that view of your data set. So making sure you've got those things on your website, that the things around your Google Maps listings and all the basics and fundamentals are in place, then you can start going up. There's no point rushing to use some of these new data enrichers if actually you haven't got your own website working, you're not doing reviews, that your last blog post was from 3 years ago. You need to be that authority on these things. So yes, companies are coming along and helping in this Wild West age that you just referred to, but you do need to make sure you've got those fundamentals nailed down as well.
Yeah, and I think that's so true. It is still the case, I would argue, that people don't go to agents' websites specifically to find property. That property search function is not necessarily the thing that they want to do. And if for example, they're on ChatGPT and then they're popping off to one agent website, coming back, popping off to another agent website, coming back, that experience is not great for a consumer. But to your point, and again, I'm sure these are covered by many of these companies, to have that. To be able to answer the questions that the AI is looking to answer. I was speaking with an agent, a really good agent who was always been top of the kind of organic search on Google, and then suddenly with AI has fallen away. And if you ask AI, ChatGPT, who the best agent in this particular town is, then they're not in the shortlist yet on Google. They're really, really high and always have been. And it's, and doing some research with them and talking with them, a lot of it is around, they don't answer the question on the individual pages. So, for example, let's assume, and it's not, it was Basingstoke, then actually being able to have someone on the site that says, we're the best agent in Basingstoke according to these reviewers, and actually on that page then have the reviews, have testimonials, and all of the answers to that question within your branch page. That's really important. So yeah, look, I think that anything that you are looking at, keeping in mind, particularly when you're redesigning your website, and that's costly as well, to make sure that you are thinking about, as you said, the GEO side of things, the generative engine optimization is going to be really important. But the kind of caveat is always that these, just like Google used to change its algorithms kind of suddenly, and then everybody would go, oh my God, we got to start over again. And then, then a whole new team of SEO experts would come in and say, right, this is what you've actually got to do. I do wonder whether trying to optimize your site repeatedly for all of these different AI models is going to be quite a challenge. So again, as I say, be thinking about it. Make sure that you have in mind what you need to be doing on your website. If you get stuck, guess what? ChatGPT is amazing at doing this sort of stuff. It will actually review your website. So you can actually put in your URL and say, look, what is it that I'm not doing that I need to do to ensure that this is being discovered by AI, by ChatGPT, by Gemini, etc. And actually it will give you some really good deep ideas of what to do. So
it does indeed. And it's actually, it does and it doesn't. So, like obviously ChatGPT's now got your straight talking prompt and you can sort of get started on that. Then you've got agent mode. But there's things that you can now be implementing to sort of really help. So, make sure you've got sort of your schema.org in there, that you're looking at having APIs. We talked a long time ago about Wikipedia having a totally separate server to feed content and quickly, and things like the conversion API from that Meta and Google are using. Make sure you've got those on your website. But I was actually on a website back end of last week, and it's one that's just relaunched as part of a new a national, let's call it, company, one of the ones that was buying up a lot of agencies, and it's a beautiful looking website, but actually it was rendering poorly. So when we were looking at the office page, it looked like they only had 4 offices, and actually there was 90. Wow. So on there, as I rendered and scrolled to the bottom, I hit the bottom, and then it actually held, and that was it. There's 4, but if you scrolled slower, you sort of got to the bottom, and then another 4 appeared, then another 4 appeared, and actually a lot of these websites that even now are getting implemented with JavaScript, because they flicker and because of the way that the content's stored, the large language models aren't picking that up. And it's sort of, as you say, it's like, if you're asking ChatGPT to look at it, then make sure you're trying the different modes and getting those different modes to analyze it as well.
100%. So yeah, listen, again, be thinking about this. It's really, really important. But yeah, there are a number of different ways that you can just start to be enhancing your website and getting that moving already. All right, next story in our property news, we're going to talk lettings again, and this is particularly Foxtons lettings. So there has been a sales slowdown. I think everybody that I'm speaking to, every agent I'm speaking to over recent weeks is certainly feeling that burn. But the lettings side of Foxtons has kind of offset a lot of that, right?
Exactly. It takes me back to 2008, this one, when obviously the financial crisis hit. Maybe a bit more extreme than anything, but I think it's quite a nice bookend from sort of talking about the Renters' Rights Bill at the start and how that consolidation, there's a lot of people moving in, and we're becoming a bit more European maybe in terms of having these big investor landlords with huge portfolios. But actually those companies that invest in their lettings book, their rent book, a lot of the acquisitions and the M&A that goes on is valued around the rent books. And actually for us, way back when I was at Foxtons in 2008, it was the rent book that pulled us through. John had just sold. There was caveats on the loan that had been utilised by BC to buy the business. And on the sales side, everything obviously went through the floor, and we were missing caveats on the loans, and it's actually the strength of the letting book that pulled the business through that quite painful time. We have some long, difficult days during that period, and it's sort of having that strong rent book that Foxtons obviously built with not just organic growth, but the acquisitions of Low Thompsons and people like that is helping them during this slower market. And we talked a few weeks ago that a certain street in South Kensington, I think there's 85 sales listings and only one of them's under offer. And that's obviously in a prime central London, but that's very much the Foxtons stomping ground. And I don't think you'd be talking to too many businesses where when sales is slow, and it's the rent books that obviously help balance that. And it's the companies that maybe don't have that well-balanced portfolio that that do really struggle during those times.
Yeah, I think that's right. I have heard that there is a little bit more of sales multiples kind of coming back into business valuations slightly, and that perhaps next year that might increase more. But yeah, as you say, the real sort of spine of any valuation of any agency right now it remains lettings. So yes, I'm keeping that rolling, paying attention to what's happening with the renters' rights bill, and making sure that you're in good shape. If that is the focus of your business, I think is going to be really important into 2026 and beyond. All right, that is our property news for this week. Let's get stuck into some AI and tech news. All right, so we were talking last week about OpenAI's Atlas. Now, Microsoft has launched its version onto its Edge browser, and it's Copilot is what it's called, because everything from Microsoft is called Copilot. It's supposed to be pretty good. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the days of Internet Explorer when Microsoft absolutely bossed the browser market, because basically it was kind of the only real kind of game in town before Google Chrome came along. So yeah, this is their attempt to reclaim that Edge in it.
Very good. And I think it's always worth stepping back and thinking with these as well, is that everybody these days uses Chromium, don't they?
Yeah.
Your OpenAI Atlas, even though they try to hide notifications of it, for everyone's benefits, or those that haven't covered it before, is Chromium is Google's free open source version of Google Chrome that a lot of people utilize to then build out their own. So OpenAI Atlas was on it, Perplexity, Comet, and then Edge as well uses this. But for me, it's how quickly everyone's sort of coming to this point where the agentic browsing experience is the future, and there's the parity across the various systems as well, isn't there, of having elements in there. The Microsoft launch, I think there was so much that came out that we could almost have 2 or 3 shows just on those. There was the comeback of Clicky, which is another hark back to the old days of Windows 95, wasn't there? But under a new name, and also Windows 11 getting a lot of Copilot mode baked in. So I've got sort of voices sat at the top of my Windows 11 now, saying that I could engage with it. And I think you say Copilot. Hopefully it doesn't. No, it hasn't. It's not turned on at the moment, don't worry. But there's a raft of things coming out from Microsoft trying to sort of keep up at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and this I think is what's really, really interesting. So, obviously ChatGPT, everyone talks about that, and that's kind of the brand that's really stuck in people's minds. But it is being pushed along really, really hard by the likes of Google Gemini, by the likes of Microsoft Copilot, by Anthropic's Claude, even Grok from Elon Musk. And I think that competition is going to be of significant benefit to all of us, not just from a price perspective, where the cost of compute is hammering down, and that means access to all of this intelligence is really, really, really cost effective right now, through to just new products and services. As you say, once Dia came out with their browser, Perplexity came out with Comet, and then now the gold rush is everyone's charging towards browsers. In 6 months' time it'll be something different, but just that this kind of Cambrian explosion of different products and services that's happening right now is really, really impressive. You think about the browsers, there has been no decent new browser in 15, 20 years. Just it kind of got stuck with Chrome. Everybody just thought Chrome was great, so why bother? So yeah, the fact that now there are 3 or 4 or 5 new ones is huge. So yeah, I think there's going to be lots more that this competition is really, really pushing. And you see Google dropping Gemini into all sorts, and we'll come to our tool of the week later as well. But Gemini is now into all of your Google Workspace. It's now coming onto Google Sheets and various other things as well. So yeah, it's just constantly evolving, and there are so many new uses for it that I think it's going to be great for all of us. So that's the browser wars, as I believe people are now calling it. Next up, we're going to have a quick look at a kind of quite a niche story, but an important story. This is so Cloudflare. I think about 30% of internet traffic goes through Cloudflare, although you probably wouldn't even notice. But basically, these guys are the ones that are helping websites to block AI. Is the first thing they're doing, and obviously that's perfectly legit and absolutely fine. And we think that some of the portals out there, perhaps Rightmove, are using this technology to block AI from actually going and crawling their website. But what he's also talking about now is Google. So essentially, when an AI goes and tries to get information off a website, it's looking at a number of different data resources and checking against what they call the robots.txt file, just to make sure that actually it's allowed to scrape. And if you say don't scrape, then it's not supposed to. But because Google has got this this search function that everybody uses. If you're invisible to Google, you're pretty much invisible to the internet. But what they're doing is also using that to get their large language models, get Gemini to be able to scrape sites that the likes of OpenAI and others are not able to do. All right. So it's kind of almost deliberately confusing and kind of combining these two functions. And so Cloudflare is basically saying that the UK regulator should force Google to unbundle the search and AI crawlers so that essentially it's a level playing field. And I have to say, I completely agree. I think it is massively in Google's favor that everybody is scared of disappearing from Google, the search site, and therefore they're letting AI crawl all over their site from Google, but not necessarily allowing the same thing to happen from the other big AIs. So yeah, I think this is going to be something that is increasingly a challenge, but I imagine Google's just going to ignore it for now.
I think so, and there is a movement, isn't there, outside of Cloudflare to replace the old robots.txt, or at least supplement it with something that says, look, we're going to block this kind of traffic but allow through others. Otherwise, all these agentic browsers we were just talking about are suddenly null and void, and all the agents that we talk about being built, or the agentic AI, again, gets throttled, for want of a better word, and blocked out. So it just gets left to humans to, at least we have something to do in the future, right? But there does need to be a shifting of those standards, and Google may well battle against it. And I'm sure that, how long did they go through the courts dealing with the whole you need to sell off Chrome piece?
It was like 3 or 4 years. Suddenly it was just
Draw
like,
it out.
Yeah, actually, no, you don't. After all, it's like
It's like Man City with their football penalties, isn't it? Those 115 that drag on. It's going to be the same with Google in this replacement.
Yes, not penalties like that you take during the game, but yes, the FIFA arguments about their yes, where they get all their money from, etc. Anyway, let's not digress into that. Although we could talk about that for a long time. So next up, we wanted to just again this is a slightly a slightly kind of legalese conversation, but really important.
Dry.
So
It's one for you, Mal.
thanks, mate. That's very kind of you. So OpenAI has completed its for-profit recapitalization. What does that mean? Why is it important? OpenAI was originally set up as a not-for-profit. Elon Musk, Sam Altman, and various others involved. Elon Musk went off in a strop because essentially they wouldn't allow his Tesla to take over the OpenAI tech. So, and he's basically been fighting attempts since to make OpenAI a for-profit, so that it can now make loads of money, reinvest all that money, blah, blah. And it's got billions and billions of investment, has OpenAI, on the back of they have to be able to convert to a for-profit, otherwise all of this disappears. They have managed to do that. And there was a long time where actually this was like really big and potentially, going to make ChatGPT kind of really fall away. But they managed to do it and done it quite by stealth. I didn't realize it was this close, actually. I thought it was going to be like another year or so before they were able to make it happen. But it's happened. So yes, from here on out, they are basically free to continue to pump billions and billions into development, which I think is going to be great from the AI industry perspective, because I think it's really important to have almost an AI native business that isn't just one that's kind of Google or others that's Crowbot on elsewhere. So there we go. That was my very quick, dry but important story, actually, Matt, about OpenAI's recapitalization. Okay, next up then, something slightly more exciting. Beijing startup Notex Robotics launches a consumer-grade humanoid robot, $1,400, which is about $1,000 in pounds. It's really, 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 really cheap, and apparently it really, 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 really works. It's quite light; it's only 12 kilograms, and it's got like 1 to 2 hours of runtime, so it's pretty basic. But this is kind of the start, right? And it's very exciting, and it's got a really cool name, hasn't it, Matt? What's his name?
Bummy. Is that like Rummy or Rumi? I've never sure how to say that.
Bumi, which for the childish amongst us could be considered amusing, but actually is clearly not. So yeah, we've got this is, I think, really significant, because what we're starting to see is scaling up of these assistants, these helpers. And look, this is probably the equivalent of your iPhone 1 or 2, which didn't have the App Store and didn't have anything particularly groundbreaking from a content point of view, but the form factor was the thing, right? It was touchscreen. Everybody up to that point had been using their Blackberries and very carefully pointing their fingers at typing, and then this touchscreen came along and everyone was like, that looks really cool. So yeah, I think that these are the kinds of moments that are really going to supercharge these things. I still think we're some years away from my mum getting one, but I think for now this is starting to really sort of pick up steam, and particularly from China, right?
Yeah, well, was it 51% of the world's robots are in China, and I see mainly on social feeds and adverts being pushed at me for robots, and sometimes I can't work out if it's Sora 2, style videos or it's actual robots working. But this one's 95 centimeters tall and weighs 12 kilograms. And what I find really interesting is it supports drag and drop programming. So in children education, you can build things out and sort of start utilizing it. And I suppose it's that introduction of it into the home, isn't it? So people starting to get used to them, a bit like is it Humans, the BBC TV
Yeah.
series where they took delivery of it. And we spoke a few weeks back about Walmart can now deliver you a robot. You jumped in with guns, but you could buy robots and guns together, but you can get a robot delivered from your home and start to actually see these things popping up. And someone was over in America recently just seeing all the Amazon delivery bots or they're out on the roads and taking up the path. Actually, it's obviously these start to increment to ours and become just sort of that's the way it is
Yeah.
at some stage, don't they?
Absolutely, and there's an Amazon story out actually this week that wasn't necessarily going to be covered,
The
but yeah, what they're
glasses.
saying is, yeah, exactly. So this is going to help people who are doing deliveries to take a significant amount less time to find where they need to leave the package and all that sort of stuff, and which door is that your particular door. So that's one thing, and then also the robotics in their warehouses. They reckon they're going to get rid of 120,000 jobs. It's going to save something like 30 cents per delivery item. That sounds like it's quite only a little bit, but that's billions and billions and billions off the costs because they've got apparently 3 distinct types of robots that they're introducing to their warehouses. So yeah, look, this, like you say, it is going to become part of everything that we see. We're going to get shortly in London Waymo taxis that are driverless, and that's going to be pretty exciting as well. So yeah, all around we're suddenly going to start to see these things crop up, and I imagine it's going to be one of those things where for like the first week everyone goes, "My God, that's so amazing," blah blah, and then like suddenly it's just normal.
And I find those last 100 quite interesting because there was an article a few weeks back about the army starting to get these new goggles as well, wasn't there? Where basically the goggles create an AR, augmented reality view of very much like you would have on Splinter Cell or Call of Duty or something. So a heads-up display of the map and where you are, where your colleagues are, a view from behind you, all these different ones. And people are saying, well, that's use in war. But you think about it in terms of the fire service or the police or ambulances or even Amazon with these last 100. It makes me think, actually, yesterday we got a delivery in the afternoon and the guy had one of those big orange flexible Amazon bags that they deliver things in, a bit like an Amazon-style Santa sack, and handed over whatever cakes I'd delivered this time. And when I went out to take Mabel to the park, the orange box is still there. So he's finished his deliveries and just sacked off the box. And do the Smart 100 glasses help remind him to take that box home with him?
I think it will, because that's not good.
Amazing
Uncle Jeff
saving.
Bezos will not be happy with that. But yeah,
Well, we know he listens, so he'll be picking that up and he's coming around to Caldecott Road later to get it.
that's right. Get all the information for sure. Good. Well, that is our AI and tech news for this week. Let us just take a little detour into our AI tool of the week. All right, this week it is Google Earth. Now, anybody remembers the kind of early times when Google Earth was like, amazing, and you could zoom in your house from the planet, you'd see the planet and then zoom right in your house. Google has now introduced AI to Google Earth. So it's well worth another look. And particularly, if you're an agent listening in, homeowner, you can now ask it questions about the local area, about things like flood risks, about stuff like that. So when you are going out, for example, on a market appraisal, then you'll be able to dig really deep into particular properties, particular areas, and really kind of showcase a lot of really, really smart AI stuff. And we're very excited about how this can integrate with the project we're working on with Intel Prop, because, this looks like it's going to be really quite exciting and really quite powerful way of using AI and what has been some pretty groundbreaking technology back in the day.
I'm a bit / massive geek when it comes to maps, and Google Earth has always been incredible. So actually, the sort of geospatial stuff you can do with this and the hunting down of bizarre places around the world that you sort of on social media you get various updates of it, but we've been able to use AI to track some down. Very obviously lots of use cases you just said for people at work, but also for geeks like me.
Yeah, it's amazing. So go have a look at that. It is Google Earth AI. All right, and we are going to just dip very quickly into our weird AI of the week as well. Now, Matt, this is one for all those runners like you. What have we got?
Well, it's Nike's latest shoe that basically uses robotics to power you. So it's we'll have to pop it in the show notes. But basically, it's a trainer that's coming out next year. But then it has sort of a contraption, for a better word, on top of it that looks like a 1990s/early noughties football shin guard to help basically power your run. So basically the tagline is anyone with a body, so walk or run faster and further. And they're actually going to be looking to commercialise into tech. So I know you get up and go for a run most mornings, Mal, like I do, and this means that rather than it being 12.5k that I can do once a week along the River Thames, maybe I can actually do that 12.5k in just half an hour before with a pod each week.
100%. Yeah. So it's basically like a bionic leg. And it's brilliant, and it literally will, If you are new to running or want to get into running, all this sort of stuff, it is going to help you to get involved. Yeah, kind of exoskeleton type stuff. I think that this is going to be the start of it, of kind of as you say, augmented running, augmented carrying, augmented whatever else, because it's just going to be how we're using machines to match up with our own kind of gait and stuff like that, and just get better at doing this, and then perhaps even get more active.
Exactly, and the Project Amplify, as they're calling it, I don't know if that's a code name or official, doesn't quite have the same ring as Air Jordan, but it said they're saying that it could do for walking or jogging what e-bikes have done for cycling, and basically helping people go further, faster, without the effort.
Yeah, exactly, and the fact that it's Nike who are doing this just kind of means that this is serious, and
they've just done it, haven't they?
They did. Well done. Bravo. All right. That is all we have time for this week. Thank you so much for listening in. And we will be back again next week, where we will be trying to come live from EA Masters. But we may not be able to because it's going to be really, really busy, in which case we'll be doing it on the Wednesday morning. Yeah, and reviewing the EA Masters. So if you've not got tickets to EA Masters, go get them. It's going to be amazing. There are 1,000.
I think it might actually be sold out now. So if you haven't got one, you might need to go begging to the suppliers who you know and work with to get one.
Absolutely. We are eminently bribable. No, we're not. Sorry, can't say that.
We don't have tickets.
No, absolutely no. But yes, look, I hope to see many, many, many of you there. It's going to be a great, great day. That's next Tuesday, the 4th of November. But yes, if we don't see you there, then we will speak to you very shortly afterwards on the podcast. So listen, Matt, thanks very much indeed. Good to catch up.
Likewise. Have a wonderful week. Take care.
All right. Enjoy. And we will see you next week. All the best. Take care. Bye.